Local ministers have filed a discrimination suit against Augusta County and Staunton court clerks. Chris Graham here, Augusta Free Press. We had this story today, Friday, as I'm recording this. Lawsuit filed yesterday, Thursday, in federal court in Harrisonburg. Two local ministers ordained by a Seattle-based church that, quote, champions religious freedom, social justice, and diverse forms of spiritual expression. Those ministers have filed a federal discrimination lawsuit against the elected court clerks in Augusta County and the city of Staunton. So the details, the suit filed on behalf of Reverend Michael E. Davis and the Reverend Jalen N. Shorts, who are ministers with United Life Church Monastery. They filed suit against Steve Landis, the clerk of court in Augusta County, and Stacy Falls, the clerk of court in the city of Staunton, because the two clerks, quote, categorically refused, unquote, to recognize the ministers under either of the statutes authorizing ministers of a religious society to perform marriages in Virginia. So here's a quote from the suit. Although these officials authorize ordained ministers of other religious orders to solemnize marriages, they, like the majority of circuit court clerks in the Commonwealth of Virginia, choose to deny ULC Monastery and its ministers that benefit without constitutional justification. So that suit was filed on Thursday. I'll get this right. Now, I looked up this organization. United Life Church Monastery ministers are recognized to officiate marriages in 48 states. There's only 50. So in 48 states, no problems for these ministers to officiate marriages. Only Virginia and Pennsylvania are there restrictions, and that's not even a universal thing. Both states, actually, there are local jurisdictions within Pennsylvania and Virginia where these ministers are allowed to perform marriages. You'd think that this is one of those inviolable constitutional rights, but actually in Virginia and Pennsylvania, at least the law, according to state courts, is that local clerks can have discretion, and that's interesting. Now, if that comes across to you as a straightforward constitutional violation, you're kind of where I am with this. Um, Now, court clerks in Virginia, I mentioned this already, are elected. So, in the case of both Landis and Falls, they were both elected to 8-year terms in the 2019 political cycle. Landis is a former member of the Virginia House Delegates, and he's a Republican. He was a Republican nominee for the court clerk job. I hate having to say that. It's so hard circuit court clerk. And then when you put Augusta County in front of that, it's a lot of C's. Falls was also elected in 2019. She's a former deputy clerk in that office. She was an independent, but it's worth noting that now she's a 2002 JMU alum, degree in political science. But she has a master's degree from Liberty University. And if you know what Liberty University, it's the evangelical church bastion in higher education. And a 2019 profile of her in the news leader when she was running for the court clerk job reported that she had been accepted to law school at Liberty University, decided not to go because she was preparing herself to run for the seat. So you got a MAGA Republican and an evangelical here making the call to deny the right to officiate marriages to two ordained ministers from a church whose, quote, ecclesiastical beliefs rest on the conviction that all people are children of the same universe. That's from language in the federal suit, which specifically states in the case of Falls, Jalen Falls, she was, quote, particularly drawn to the church's affirmation of spiritual autonomy and its open embrace of LGBTQ individuals and others who do not identify with traditional faiths. I think you might start seeing now the political ramifications of this. You got a minister who wants to officiate marriages for LGBTQ individuals being denied that right by a MAGA Republican circuit court clerk. There's the constitutional issue here. The lawsuit includes as a key detail that, quote, since she became ordained, Reverend Shorts has been approached by multiple members of her community asking whether she could officiate their weddings, and that, quote, some of those seeking her services belong to the city of Stanton's closely knit LGBTQ community and have struggled to find officiants who will marry them without judgment or discrimination. Because, in Virginia, you either have a church minister who is approved by the government, or you have a civil person who pays a $500 fee to officiate one wedding. That person can pay $500, be approved by a court, and then they can officiate a wedding. Um, Now, the suit tells us that Reverend Shorts remains committed to serving as a minister in the community. She views solemnizing marriages as a central component of her religious vocation and hopes to become a go-to officiant for inclusive, affirming LGBTQ, I'll say it right, friendly ceremonies in Augusta County and perhaps even the Shenandoah Valley as a whole. But defendant Landis's discriminatory enforcement of Virginia's marriage laws has deterred her from exercising her faith freely and fully. So, again, this is the issue here. You've got a person who wants to, I mean, explicitly saying she wants to be someone who can minister to and officiate weddings for the LGBTQ community, being told by an official elected member of government that she can't do that. Now, Davis, according to the suit, is a former Baptist church deacon who, quote, considers it part of his calling to officiate weddings, baptisms, funerals, and to preach the word. He does not see these acts as civic duties, but as expressions of his faith. Reverend Davis considers ministry the next phase of his life's purpose and looks forward to transitioning into full-time ministry after he retires, the suit tells us. Now, according to the suit, both Davis and Falls filed paperwork last year to officiate marriage ceremonies and were denied by both of our local circuit court clerks who, per the suit, informed Davis and Falls that they would need to register as ordinary civil celebrants, which includes paying that $500 fee that I noted, and to be able to officiate the ceremonies. The suit alleges that this policy and practice prevents ULC monastery ministers from exercising the same legal rights afforded to clergy of other state-favored denominations. And I like that language there from the lawyer, state-favored denominations, because that's what's effectively happening here. The suit also alleges that these decisions by the local circuit court clerks exposes church ministers to criminal prosecution, which it does. If without a license or sanction from the government, a person officiates a wedding, that's actually a class one misdemeanor. A class one misdemeanor exposes you to a year in jail and a hefty fine. I think it's $2,500 fine in Virginia. Also, this policy and practice stigmatizes the church and its ministers, branding them and their religious practices illegitimate in the eyes of the government. That is not how America works. It's not how America works. And so we of course reached out to both Steve Landis and Stacey Falls, and not surprisingly, they're not going to comment on pending litigation. We did feel like we had to reach out, though, of course, just to as the courtesy. But we, of course, will be following this case closely. It does seem like the kind of thing that could have far-reaching amplification, and here in Virginia, maybe Pennsylvania, maybe nationwide.